The free-to-play folks that have been playing Honkai Star Rail since launch should have around 600 Starlights by now, which leads to a difficult decision. Which 5-star Lycone to buy? Or is it better to get more pulls? I will go over the goods and the bads of each one and rank them. And obviously, the biggest factor is whether you already have a lucky or unlucky copy of the Lycone from the standard gacha, and the available characters on your account. We do not want to repeat Lycone since getting S2 is a much smaller upgrade than having an entirely new weapon or character. For some, getting 30 pulls might be a better option than one of the weaker Lycones, since those 30 pulls can get you closer to a limited character or a limited Lycone. And those limited Lycones are much stronger than these standard ones. Let's start with Gepard's Perseverance Lycone. This one is top tier for any tank. It gives lots of defense and increases your aggro modifier by 200%. Aggro is hard to come by since we can only increase it by skills or abilities, and it's not a farmable substat. This Lycone also provides effect hit rate, which is still quite useful. It helps Gepard freeze enemies more often, and Fire Trailblazer a higher chance to taunt. Other strong Perseverance Lycone options are Lando's Choice, which adds the same 200% aggro modifier. The 5-star one from Herder Shop is an okay stat stick, but the passive is lackluster. The main downside of Gepard's Lycone is the lack of sustain, so you might want a healer in the party. And it does not directly increase your damage, but can generate more skill points by letting your healer attack instead of healing your squishies. Overall, I rate Gepard's Lycone a must-have for any account. The next best option is Bronya's Lycone, but only if you have Bronya. It gives energy regen, which is one of the harder stats to get. It also greatly increases the damage of the next ally after the user does a skill. This is damage, not attack, which scales much better. But it's also why this mainly works for Bronya, since she can control who attacks next. Other Harmony supports have trouble aligning with the next attacker consistently, even after speed tuning. And oftentimes, Asta and Tingyun will use basic attacks instead of their skills to help generate skill points. The Forgotten Shop Lycone, Past and Future, has the same shortfall. Dance 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 is good on any Harmony unit, as well as the Battle Pass Lycone. And Planetary Rendezvous is great if you can stack Elemental Weakness in Memory of Chaos. Overall, Bronya's Lycone is the second best one from the Starlight shop, but only if you are using Bronya. Otherwise, the 4-star options are better. Next up, Clara's Lycone, something irreplaceable. A fitting name since it's still Clara's best in slot. It adds a good amount of attack, but more importantly, it heals you every time you are hit or defeat an enemy. This is incredible sustain for most destruction units since they are already a little tanky in the first place. But even better for Clara since she does more damage by getting hit, and proccing a counter also doubles the attack bonus. Comparing to other Lycones, Nowhere to Run adds a similar base attack, but only heals when defeating enemies, which is not going to happen as often. The 5-star from Herder Shop is a pretty strong free-to-play option. It adds a large amount of attack that lasts for the entire battle. This Lycone is actually better than Clara's Lycone if the user can effectively break opponents. But overall, Clara's Lycone is about as strong as an S5 on the Fall of an Aeon. The attack bonus does not benefit Blade as much as HP, so I will only buy Clara's Lycone if you are using Clara on your account. Similar to how Bronya's Lycone is mainly for Bronya, but things might change as we get more 5-star destructions in the future. I will talk about the DPS Lycones next. Being a 5-star, Sleep Like the Dead grants more attack than 4-star Lycones, the flat crit damage is nice, and the crit rate activates on hit. Sela, Yanqing, and Dongheng all hit 4 times with their skills, so most of the time you'll activate the crit boost pretty early in the attack, and bump up the high emotion value of the 4th hit on these characters' skills. The crit buff also remains until next turn. There is that 3-turn cooldown for the bonus crit rate, which lowers this weapon's potential. Another downside is the lack of attack or damage buff. This only increases crit and nothing else. And the free play options are great if not better. Swordplay is just way too overpowered for the current hunters. They all hit multiple times with their skills, so they can easily build the damage stacks. At high super impositions, Swordplay is even better than Sleep Like the Dead. There's also the 5-star Lycone from Herder Shop. These are actually like a 4.5 star Lycon since the base stats are between the Gacha 5 star and the 4 star Lycons. The passive gives bonus crit rate, but nothing too unique, and the attack buff can be hard to maintain uptime. Overall, Yanqing's Lycon is a little stronger than the free-to-play options, but not by much, and it still loses to Seela's signature Lycon, obviously. Himeko's Lycon is quite weak compared to Before Dawn, and only slightly better than some 4-star options. The attack buff depends on the number of enemies on the field, and most bosses usually won't go over 3 units. The strong bonus damage is countered by an equally strong toughness bar from stronger enemies, so you won't be breaking too often either. If we look at the Battle Pass Lycon, S1 can give Himeko 24% damage boost at all times, which is already better than the varying attack boost from Himeko's Lycon. And when compared to free-to-play options, we can easily get an S5 Breakfast, which also adds 24% damage boost, with a stacking attack boost that lasts the entire battle. Both the free-to-play and light spender options are better than Milky Way. Overall, Himeko's Lycon is the worst one to buy. Next up, Welt's Lycon. The extra damage against debuffed enemies should have almost 100% uptime for most Nihility units. However, the effect hit rate and attack bonus only affects the skill and won't help your ultimate. Don't get baited by this Lycon. The other 2 limited 5-star Lycons are much stronger. Silverwolf's Lycon provides better team damage, and Kafka's does way more personal damage. The new 5-star from Herder Shop adds break effect and dot damage, so it limits the characters that can use it. The bonus damage on the dots is the same as Eyes of the Prey, so this Lycon is good on Kafka and decent for Sampo and Luca. The boys still need effect hit rate, so I would use Eyes of the Prey on them instead. Good Night Sleep Well usually provides more damage than Welt's Lycon in most cases, and Resolution Shines is another option if you don't have a Good Night Sleep Well. It adds some team damage and benefits multi-hitting skills more. The free-to-play Fermata does not do much unless you already have Sampo or Kafka already on the team for consistent debuffs. Overall, Welt's Lycon is pretty average. It's about as strong as the 4-star options and way weaker than the 5-star ones. Last up, Bailu's Lycon. The HP and healing is nice, but the extra damage is pretty useless for most healers. Compared to 4-star options, Post-Op Conversation provides precious energy regen and increases the healing from ultimates. If you have this Lycon at high superimpositions, it's actually better than Time Waits for No One. Look at this, Bailu's Lycon adds 18% to 30% HP and 12 to 20% healing. Post-Op adds more bonus healing and trades HP for energy, and the tipping point is the 5-star rope. At plus 15, a rope can either give 43.2% HP or 19.4% energy. Using Post-Op with an HP rope will provide more healing than Bailu's Lycon with an energy rope, and you will also have a much higher chance of getting an HP rope, since there appears to be a secret decreased drop rate for the energy rope. The free-to-play Quid Pro Quo is great for boosting the team's energy, potentially giving an ally 16 energy each turn at S5. And I also want to talk about multiplication. This 3-star Lycon can help you generate a lot more skill points for fights that are not too healing intensive. Overall, Bailu's Lycon is another pass since there's so many good alternatives. So here's the final rankings for the Starlight shop. Gepard's Lycon has the best value, but does not directly increase your DPS. Bronya's and Clara's Lycon are best in slot and worth buying for their counterparts, but it's not that valuable if you don't use Bronya or Clara. Welt's and Yanqing's Lycon are slightly better than the non-limited Lycons, but not by much. For me, it's a toss-up from getting 30 extra pulls on a limited banner or those weapons. And finally, I would pass on Himeko's and Bailu's Lycon. There are good, if not better 4-star options than these two. But in the end, this ranking is highly account dependent, and if you really want specific art or just want to collect them all, then the choice is yours. Thanks for watching, and have fun out there, Trailblazer.